Hi guys and welcome to my channel. This is Alan J. Fisher. I'm just coming at you today, possibly with a couple of readings, but wait and see. It's up to you to decide, we'll figure it out later. If the video's a little jerky, please excuse me. I'm working on this as we speak. But as you can probably tell, we've got a few exciting things coming up over the next week or so. And I'd just like to begin sharing those with you. As you know, at this moment in time, we've got our full websites out there. We have got the Imperium Cycle website has been translated into Spanish. Ya está listo para ustedes para que lo vean. We are also going to be translating all of our website content to Spanish. And at the moment, project going on is this one, the Imperium Collections Antologia, is going to be translated into Spanish, but it's a bit of a more complex task preserving the individual character voices, as they currently are, into the Spanish language. It's more of a challenge than I had anticipated. But it's coming. And it will be coming. And I'm going to do a parent video alongside this one in a short while, where I'm going to be doing a simultaneous translation reading of one of the stories, I haven't decided which yet, of the Antologia, translating into Spanish as I go. But we'll try that later on, shall we? Just for the time being, I'd like to welcome you here. You've seen there's a few new changes going on. Some revamping of the artwork has happened. The new Dracograph image, which you may or may not be able to see behind me at this moment in time. I think he's blocked. No, he's on the other side, isn't he? Never mind. But you can see we've got everything here. We've got all of our artwork. Sorry, there. All of the artwork is starting to take shape on our walls. We've got a lovely new microphone to do it right. We've got a new camera right here, which is a lovely setup I've got working. I've just got to improve it and make it not make me look so old. But what can you do? That's the dangers of HD cameras. It's showing my oh dear me. I need to get some smoothing filters put on here or something so I can be lovely and gorgeous for you all. But I just don't care. But anyway, thank you for coming along. As you have seen, the new intro, which you saw at the beginning of this video, and the outro, which you also saw at the end of this video, is all going to be coming along. I've got a few more plans out and working on, some new ideas that we can try just to keep pushing, forcing and working on new ideas to keep everything fresh and going and just evolving. Because you can't sit still, you know. You may have seen, those who've followed me over the years since way back in the distant past of 2017, what I produced back then is nothing in comparison to what I produce now. I've evolved. My artwork has gone from basic to much more advanced. Oh, there's a Dracograph there, look. Oh, I'm trying to get it. Can I get it? I can't. My depth perception isn't great. You see him. More or less in the range above my finger. Anyway, you can't see him very well there, but we'll work on that. I'm going to work on some improvements here and there. It's cost a bit of moolah in order to do that. But what can you do? Hopefully it's a worthwhile investment. And probably won't be, but you never know. Hopefully someone will come along and say, oh wow, I like your stuff. I am willing to pay you quazillions of pounds, dollars, gosh, I'll even take euros, I don't mind. Or some unknown currency that I haven't used before that I can't use in a very wide range. I don't care. Someone will come along and say, hey, we'll give you this vast quantity of currency in order to make a movie, a TV series to put you on Disney Plus for £1,000. That's it. Maybe it'll come along. Who knows? I am somewhat confident the Imperium Cycle is going to take off before the Chronicles of Enoch does, but you never know. I have been wrong before. It happens. I will admit to it happening once or twice where I have indeed been wrong. But worse things could happen, and I don't know what that siren was. Please explain to me what the heck happened there. But that was like a slow motion siren, it was like the Ecto 1. They've just dug it out and just turned its siren on. I don't know. But what I mean is, we're in at the moment in a very challenging time, and it's a challenging time when art has been challenged. And with it being both a challenging time and a time of ever-changing technology, we have to evolve with it, and we have to find ways to push ourselves forward. And that's what I'm trying to do here. And hopefully I will do it. But this is just a quick video for now. I will perhaps be back later on this evening or tomorrow. Excuse me. With my next one, but I'd just like to welcome you along. Thank you for joining me. And tell you right now, if you look into either Imperial Psychoanthologia that we've got out at the moment, or the Chronicles of Enoch Preludes, you're going to enjoy both of them. And I'm actually going to start here, just to give you an idea. This is from chapter 1, story 1 perhaps, of the Chronicles of Enoch Preludes, because I do like how I narrated this. Excuse me, even for me. So let me read this. This is chapter 1, Krampus. A circle of chairs in a room which is heavily draped with dark cloths. Has no windows, this room. Only half-seen lamps shaded behind drapes. An atmosphere of secrets best kept that way. Of meetings it's best to not even have the vaguest suspicion about. And of people whose faces never venture out into the light. In fact, they probably made a deal with the light so that it would look the other way. Hands in its pockets and an innocent whistle on its lips. These 7 people, well, it would be better not to even think about seeing them at all together. The 6 chairs were occupied by 1 man and 5 well, I'm not sure, but if I am pressed, then fine. Men, I suppose, will have to do. The man who is clearly the leader from his body language, and the way the rest of them look at him, wears an expensive though simple suit of dark blue with a very fine red pinstripe. He has a dark green tie and a good Windsor knot, and a fine tie pin of gold damask. He is middle-aged, but in good health, and vigorous, with a solid and handsome face, fine cheekbones, somewhat patrician nose, blue eyes under well-managed short grey hair. He has the look of a politician, or maybe a salesman, of some kind or another. The two are really not that different. Next in line, we have the woman, the only person of female persuasion in the room, though she appears neither nervous about nor concerned by this fact. She wears her black and somewhat wavy hair in a kind of loose bob that reaches her shoulders. She wears a fine pantsuit of charcoal grey and a plain green blouse with a round collar underneath. Aside from a pair of small gold stud-type earrings, she displays no jewellery except for a fine golden brooch in the form of a bow and arrow, which is definitely cheap enough looking to have cost more than most people earn in a decade. The man beside her looks like a scholar or an ascetic of some kind. His long face is fine-boned but also consumptively thin, cheeks hollow and pinched, his complexion pallid and sickly looking. He looks every day of his 83 years, and perhaps several more. He wears a well-tailored Italian suit of black, with a light charcoal pinstripe, a black shirt and the Roman collar of a clergyman. Thin, pale and liver-spotted hands are folded in his lap, and he laughs softly at some joke. There's a brooch of silver in the shape of the seal of St. Peter on the lapel of his jacket, meaning he has come straight from the Vatican. The military uniform and bearing of the man in the next seat is as complete a contrast as could be imagined after the old holy diplomat. This man is solid, almost square-shaped, as if he's been stamped out on a production line. His suitably military hair is flame red and his eyes are a deep sage green. He has the pale freckened skin of Ireland or perhaps Scotland. There is a faint scar crossing his forehead, down the corner of one eye which stops halfway down one chiselled cheek. He is somewhere in his mid to late 50s, but it is hard to be sure, as he has that worn and almost leathery appearance of someone who has spent much time in the sun. He looks as if he belongs on a Marine Corps recruitment poster. In fact, he has the insignia of the Corps and 4 stars of a general on his epaulets, as well as a rather decent Technicolor barcode pattern on his left breast. Maybe he knows what all those stripes, pips and bits of colour mean, but we do not. Some of his medals look odd, but we are no expert on such military matters. At last we arrive to number 5, and he could easily win the distinction of strangest person here, were not for the figure to his immediate left, to whom we shall get momentarily. This fellow is, as we have mentioned, rather unique. He is rather short, but not quite what one might call, in a rather politically incorrect fashion, a dwarf. He is just barely over 5 feet tall, but broad of chest and shoulder. He has unruly dark hair which curls, ironically perhaps, across his forehead like that of a Renaissance angel. The left-hand side of his saturnine face is dominated by a rather nasty collection of scars. Part of his cheek appears to be missing, replaced by livid scar tissue. Unlike the man of the cloth, who looks like he is about to die, this man has the paleness of one who has simply had all the blood sucked out of them. He has intense, even piercing eyes, which are spaced just a little too far apart. A long nose and a sensuous mouth which looks just a little wider than one should feel comfortable with. He is not exactly ugly, but handsome has never been a title given to him by anyone with eyesight. He might even be considered passable were it not for his eyes. He has one of those they should have known it was him looks, assigned by lovers of true crime TV shows. Don't be ashamed, you've all done it. We're friends here. Safe, you can admit it. This fella has the eyes, the smile, the expression, even the eyebrows of someone who you would run away from. He also has a piranha's teeth. He parts his sensual pale lips rarely, and always intentionally, just to show his mouthful of ivory needles off. As we study him, we realize there is an incredible poise and deliberateness about him. Every gesture, movement and word is calculated. Every affectation of dress and appearance is intentional, carefully designed. He wants you to be distracted and not see beyond his outward appearance. Here sits a man considered a buffoon by many, and one who not only does not care about that, but also works very hard to maintain such a facade. And we'll leave it there, as we introduce who you are sure to have recognised as being Asmodeus into the mix. And we shall call it a day there, or shall we? Bugger it. I'm in this today. What we're going to do. Let's start. Again, we'll begin. First story of the Imperium Collections Anthologia, available on Amazon, $6.99 in paperback, $2.99 in ebook format, as is this one here. Look, advertising, plug, more plugs than those, or curries, depending which country you're in, Leroy Merlin if you're in Spain. So, this is from this book, Dragon of Macedon. Waiting is never enjoyable, especially not for a soldier. Waiting while close to 5 million other soldiers were also not enjoying the wait, and being responsible for cohesion, discipline, and morale, well, add to that hangers-on, camp followers, wives, baggage haulers, merchants, and innumerable children, and it becomes a pure nightmare. Alexander had entered the mountain 100 days ago, and we had set up camp in the plain below to wait. It was very, very cold up here. The nighttime plain was filled like the nighttime plain was filled with campfires to warm the host, stretching as far as the eye could see like a galaxy of stars. As above, so below, that crooked Indican sage liked to say. And here so, indeed it was. The thousands of fires arrayed in the darkness below, so very much like the flames of heaven. Things were getting difficult though. They were getting complicated. Soldiers, we don't like complicated. We like simple. Sword here, enemy there. Stick sword an enemy while preventing enemy from sticking sword in you and your mates. Simple. Oh, how that has changed. I took off my tall crested helms and ran my fingers through my damp hair. Things used to be so simple. I'm a Chiliak, commander of 1,000 now. I have to worry about morale, provisions, where the latrines are, logistics, who hates who this week, fights, and even chart on politics. I hate politics. When you're engaged with managing 1,000 men, coordinating such a huge camp with other officers and generals, millions of men from hundreds of countries, speaking thousands of tongues and dialects, most of whom have no more Greek than a 5-year-old, it becomes necessary. We have Greeks of all stripes and cloths. We have Persians, Sogdianians, Scythians, Indican, Babylonians, Bactrians, and God knows how many. Who else? Alexander's hegemonic cultural melting pot was starting to steam and bubble. Fights were common, some of them fatal. leading to more fights and blood feuds, especially among our more tribal compatriots. We needed to make some very serious examples. 15 of the locals were very publicly and spectacularly executed, and though it damped the furnace, it did not douse the flames entirely. We needed a man who somehow managed to meld this disparateness into a whole. We needed Alexander. I joined this great conquest 9 years ago as a common soldier, and have very quickly fallen under the spell of the Boy King. I joined late, many said, after the Battle of Gaugamela, one of the many waves of reinforcements Antipater sent to keep his king supplied and moving. By this time the biggest battle had happened. I had missed the famous ones, and the veterans did not quite see us as important. Fuzz-faced boys, a lot of you. I was 19, skinny, and brought my father's spear and shield, which I could manage well enough. But in an ill-fitting and raggedy cuirass and helmet tacked 2 sizes too large for me, I must have looked a sight to those who had fought their way across the Granicus and Bosporus. Those who'd seen Darius run like the painted coward he was. All those glorious victories. I was here for the consolidation, the hunt and the cleaning up, so I thought. The chases and the skirmishes. I took part in the final symbolic victory at Persepolis, and I am not proud of what we did on that drunken night. What I did when Alexander gave the city to the army, and we descended upon it like Bacchianamos. We ruined, we despoiled, and we destroyed the true jewel of a city. I was young, and I've learned a lot since then. It was in Indica that I earned my first crest. It was also where I met the skinny, bearded specimen of a 2-legged snake who was sauntering towards me now, smoking his pipe as he came. "Cold night." "Long night, cold one," he said by way of greeting. "What do you want, Sangasanth?" My relationship with Shamshir is hard to explain. It's not that I disliked him, but it's not that I overly liked him either. He's strange. Those baskets of snakes he plays tunes to and his funny tricks. He makes me uncomfortable. I never understand him nor completely trust him. He's very charming, humorous, and ridiculously easy to like, though. Maybe that's part of why I tried not to like him, because I'm that cynical sort. I was also unsure of why he decided to traipse across the world to follow the man who'd conquered the good part of his country. You leave my naggers out of this, Kaliadis. I'm worried. That was too technically a civilian. He also was technically a civilian, but high in Alexander's council. He was very familiar to the rest of us and had no regard for rank. You're always worried, Faker. What do you need? Is Faker you bloody well know it is. This is becoming almost ritual between us. It's Alexander we need, and you know. 2. Everything is becoming stinky. Stinky? Your metaphors never fail to confuse me, Sham. You know, like something that's been dead for a bit and is coming to bits. I laughed and slapped him on the back. Another thing which amazed me about him was the strength his slender frame seemed to contain. He looked rangy and sort of skinny, all flesh and bone and beard. But there was a lot more to him than that. Also, everyone called him the Old Indica. But if one looked properly, he was not really that old. His skin was lined as one who spent a lot of time in the sun, and the colour of burnt mahogany, but his beard and hair were coal black. Even General Cleatus' hair was a little bit lighter. I'm going up there. Sean was serious now. Don't trust those skinny brass guys like us who live up there. Trust them midgets even less. Dwarves, I said without thinking. Dwarves, midgets, what's the difference? Dwarves have beards. I thought everyone knew that. We don't have them in Indica. Looks shifty to me. Took a long draw on his pipe and patted me on one shoulder. Let's see what he's doing up there, right? Probably women, I called after him. You see any pretty ones that he doesn't want? Come and find me. Sham flapped his arm over his shoulder and shook his head, blowing a cloud of smoke behind him as he continued on. And we'll leave that for there now. So, that's some introduction to the first 2 books that I, Alan J. Fisher here, have written and am proud to present to you. I will give you some more. I will present you some more. I'll also give you some more in Spanish. But thank you for watching today. Always remember, find me on Twitter, Instagram, www.alanjfisher.co.uk, www.imperium.com. It's perfectly up to you. I am here. Please enjoy, and you will find links to all the other websites on the ones which I provide. But for now, I would like to introduce you to the closing screen for the Imperium, and I will soon have an additional one for me. Thank you for watching today. Thank you for enjoying everything Alan J. Fisher has to present to you. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye.